deep in the dry desert cliffs near the Salt Sea, a small dark cave held a secret unlike any other. In 1952, men digging through the dust of Qumran Cave 3 found something strange. Most of the Dead Sea Scrolls were written on soft animal skins or old paper that could tear with a touch. But this object was different. It was made of metal. 2 rolled sheets of pure copper lay half buried in the dirt, heavy with age and green rust. The metal was so hard and dry that no one could unroll it without breaking the sheets into dust. For 4 years, the mysterious rolls sat in a museum, keeping their secrets safe. Scientists knew they needed a special plan to look inside. They had to understand the archaeological metallurgy of the metal to save the writing. In 1956, a clever cutter in England carefully sliced the copper into 23 curved strips using a tiny saw. When the strips were laid out side by side, a chilling list came to light. Unlike the religious stories and old laws found in the other Dead Sea Scrolls, this scroll was a detailed map made of words. It listed 64 secret hiding spots scattered across the land. The text named deep caves, hidden underground rooms, old tombs, and water wells. Behind each spot, the writing promised a vast fortune in gold and silver buried deep in the ground. To make sense of this strange metal list, researchers had to look back at the dark times when it was made. The scroll belonged to the painful era of the Jewish-Roman wars. During this time of big battles, powerful armies marched across the dry hills, setting fires and breaking towns. People lived in constant fear of losing everything they loved. The looming threat of Roman soldiers forced people to make desperate choices to protect their sacred treasures. Many experts began analyzing the text to see where these vast treasures could have come from. One major theory points directly to the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. As the Great War grew worse, priests may have taken gold, silver, and holy vessels from the sacred rooms. They wanted to hide these riches before the Roman army reached the city gates. The copper scroll became a secret map meant to save the nation's heart from being stolen. Another idea centers on the quiet community that lived right by Qumran. Some scholars think the people who lived in the desert gathered their own wealth over many years. They lived away from the busy cities, living simple lives and holding their property together. If they saw the heavy smoke of war coming closer, they might have hidden their collective savings across the rocks. They buried their future deep in the earth, hoping to return when peace came back. The writing carved into the metal gave important clues about the person who made it. The words were written in an unusual style of Hebrew mixed with a few Greek letters. The carver pressed hard into the soft metal using a sharp chisel. Because writing on metal is slow and painful work, the letters were jagged and crude. Some words were misspelled, showing that the writer was working under great stress or in a big hurry. Over the years, many brave searchers took the ancient scroll into the hot desert sun to test its claims. They measured old steps, climbed steep cliffs, and cleared heavy rocks from dry wells. But every single attempt to find the gold and silver ended in deep disappointment. Not one coin or metal bar from the famous list has ever been brought into the light. The barren ground refused to give up the rich fortune. This total lack of discovery raised difficult questions for modern science. Did ancient Roman soldiers find the hidden spots first and clear them out centuries ago? Or did the owners return after the fighting stopped to dig up their buried possessions? It is also possible that clever thieves saw where the dirt was turned and robbed the sites long before archaeologists arrived. The silent desert left no physical trace behind. Because no gold was ever found, some researchers began to view the text in a completely different way. They suggested that the scroll was never meant to be a real map at all. Instead, it might be an old myth or an exaggerated legend written to keep hope alive during hard times. By listing massive amounts of buried treasure, the writer gave broken people something grand to dream about while their world was falling apart around them. Yet, the physical nature of the artifact fights back against the idea that it was just a fake story. In ancient times, sheet metal was very hard to make and extremely costly to buy. No one would waste precious copper and spend long hours hammering words into metal just for a silly tall tale. The choice to use durable metal shows that the message was meant to survive fire, water, and the slow passage of long centuries. The location where the artifact was found also adds great weight to its physical truth. Qumran Cave 3 was not an easy place to reach in the desert hills. It sat high above the dry ground, hidden behind sharp rocks and steep slopes. Someone had to carry the heavy metal sheets up the steep climb and place them deep inside the darkness. They hid the scroll carefully so that only those who knew the spot could ever find it again. When placed alongside the other Dead Sea Scrolls, the copper sheet stands out as a unique voice from the past. The other scrolls were sacred books, songs of praise, and community rules. They were written to teach, guide, and comfort the spirit. But the metal text was purely practical and urgent. It was a cold, hard list made of weight and measure, created to preserve real wealth during a time of extreme danger. The text uses specific local names that only someone living in the area at that time would know. It mentions fine water channels, small courtyards, and specific burial places that have since vanished under shifting sands. The detail in the list is far too sharp to be simple imagination. The author knew the land well and spoke of real landmarks that existed before the Romans destroyed the nearby settlements. Some expert reports suggest that the treasure was intentionally broken into small parts to protect it from total loss. By spreading 64 different caches across miles of rough desert, the owners made sure that even if a Roman patrol found one spot, the rest would stay safe. It was an ancient way of sharing risk during a brutal conflict where survival was uncertain for everyone involved. Today, keeping the physical scroll safe is a big challenge for modern science. The air and time caused the metal to decay into fragile green layers. The 23 cut strips must be kept under strict climate controls to prevent them from turning to dust. Modern laser scans and high-tech cameras are now used to read tiny details in the metal without touching the delicate surface ever again. Looking closely at the ancient metal reveals the intense human spirit behind its creation. Every punch of the chisel into the copper sheet tells a tragic story of fear, faith, and survival. The person who made it was working against time while an empire closed in around them. They trusted the ground to hold their precious secrets, hoping that future generations would come back to claim what was lost. The true value of the scroll lies not in the gold that was never found, but in the window it opens to the past. It serves as a direct line back to the desperate final days of an ancient kingdom. Through its crude writing and heavy metal body, we can feel the sheer terror and quiet hope of people caught in the wild storm of the Jewish-Roman wars. The Copper Scroll remains one of the greatest mysteries of human history. Found deep inside Qumran Cave 3, it bridges the gap between legendary lost riches and the hard facts of archaeological metallurgy. Whether it points to empty holes in the sand or lost temple gold, the sheet of hammered metal continues to speak to us across thousands of years, holding its final secrets tight in the silent desert dust.